He loved the Father so much and he loved us so much that he walked in obedience, but he's also calling us out of a response to his love to obey. He says in John 14:15, Jesus says this, "If you love me, you will keep my commandments." So how do we demonstrate our love for him? We obey him, right? And religion is we try to obey God so that we receive his love, right? But then that's not what Jesus is teaching here. But what we do first is we encounter God's love. We respond to his love. But our love actually does look like something. And most simply, our love actually looks like obeying him, first of all, and obeying him in what he's called us to do. And so what does love look like? Obedience, it looks like us obeying him. It looks like us obeying the great commandments. Can anyone tell me what the great commandments are? When Jesus was asked, what's most important in all of the law? What did he say? Love the Lord your God with all your heart, right? And to what else? The second is like it. Love your neighbor as yourself, okay? So what does love look like? We respond to God's love, and then we respond in obedience to the first and the second commandment. We love God in return. How do we show him that we love him? What do? We obey him, and we love one another, right? But first of all, the way we show God that we love him is we respond in obedience to him, okay? And we choose to obey him, and that shows, Father, I love you. I want to obey you. But not only that, we are to love others as we love ourselves, amen? But also, he's called us to obey the Great Commission. What did he say in the Great Commission? He told us to go. And here's what I want to connect. I believe that the way that we demonstrate our love for God is connected to our obedience to him in the Great Commission. That when we say yes to the Great Commission, when we say yes to praying for the harvest and going towards the harvest and being a laborer in the harvest, that both of those are ways that we express our love and our adoration for God. Heidi Baker, she says this. You guys might have heard this, but she says, love looks like something. Love looks like something. You know, I think about my kids, and I think about how I wish at many times they would simply obey me, right? And I wish that I could get them to obey my rules or to follow what I'm trying to ask them to do. And many times it's hard, right? Because they have their own will, they have their own desires, they want to go their own way, right? And as we grow in our parenting, we grow in learning how to interact and work with our kids, and we see them grow in obedience. But how many of you guys know your kids never fully walk in obedience? And if you look at the story of Israel, you see that repeatedly, over and over and over again, God calls them to walk in obedience so that they can be blessed. But what do they choose instead? Disobedience and rebellion. And they keep going back, and they keep going back, and they keep going back. But in Jeremiah, God promises through the prophet Jeremiah that he's going to establish a new covenant with the house of Israel. And in the new covenant, he promises that he's going to write their law on their hearts. Now, why is that important? Because when the law is written on your heart, it means that it suddenly becomes the inward desire of what you want. What God actually is promising in the new covenant is he is going to begin to shift your will when you submit to him. Remember I was talking about kids, how much you like many times I wish I could take away kind of like that obstinate will from my kids at certain times. Like, man, I wish they just had to obey me, right? It would be so much easier. And God chose to give us a free will out of love, right? And he chose to allow us to have free will so that we could truly love, because forced obedience is not love, but willful obedience is. But God comes up with this clever plan through the new covenant, which was realized in Jesus. He says, you know what I'm going to do? I'm actually going to begin to write my law on your heart.